Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to break down an old school instrumental style ballad. And these were huge back in the day, like songs like Sleepwalk or Last Date by Floyd Kramer. That's one of my favorites. And so I wanted to write something kind of in that style. Just because I kind of miss those songs. You just don't hear them anymore. You don't hear like instrumental ballads. And maybe I'm just like, sometimes I think I was just born in the wrong era, because some of the best stuff, actually most all of the stuff I listen to is like from 40 or 50 years ago. But anyway, I was trying to think of a modern day equivalence of an instrumental ballad, and I couldn't think of one. So if you can think of one, leave a comment and let me know. Maybe there's something I'm missing. In fact, the last instrumental song I can remember being a hit was Axel F back in the 80s. Remember from Beverly Hills Cop, that little song? That was played a lot. And also the Miami Vice soundtrack was played quite a bit. And actually, I love that song. I had the album and everything. It was, I'm dating myself. But anyway, I was just trying to think of the modern day equivalents. I couldn't think of it. So we're going to break this down note for note. I'm going to explain where all the notes come from. And the idea behind this lesson is, and in fact, I wrote down 7 ideas. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half of the lead and break it all down note for note. I'll explain where the notes come from so that you can take these ideas and concepts and apply them to your own playing, whether you're improvising or you're writing your own material. If you'd like to join us for part 2, where we go over the second half, download the tablature, download the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing everything we're about to talk through. You can get all of those extra materials by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP585. The song is in the key of D, and let me just go over the chords real quick. So it starts on the 1 chord, your D chord, then it goes to the 6 chord, which is your relative minor. Your 6th chord is always the relative minor. I'll talk more about that in a minute. 1 chord to the 6th chord, that's a B minor. Then we go to the 3 chord, which is an F sharp minor. And then we go back to the 1 chord, but we play a 7 version of it. So now it's a D7. And then we go to the 4 chord, which is a G. And then to the 5 chord, which is an A. And then back to the D. And all of that is the part A. And so these old ballads would have like a part A and a part B, pretty much all of them. There's never just sort of one piece to it. There's always a sort of a 2-part thing. So we're going to go through all of that. Let's listen to the first part, and then we'll talk about what's going on. Okay, so the first idea that I wrote down happens right away. And you'll notice the song goes from that D to the B minor, and I played that over the D, and then when it goes to the B minor, I played the same thing. So the first thing that I wrote down was, it's okay to repeat yourself. If you listen to any old ballad, you're like, listen to Sleepwalk, listen to how many times the phrases get repeated over and over again. It's super common, and it's actually a great thing for you as a writer or as an improviser, because you're not having to reinvent the wheel all the time. It's great for the listener as well, because it's like, oh yeah, it's familiar territory, and it's sort of like a hook. It's something you can kind of latch onto. It's very cool. So the reason that a lot of the old ballads would go from like the 1 chord to the 6 chord, which is the relative minor, is because the relative minor chord and its relative major, the 1 chord and the 6 chord, they share the same scale. So I could play the D major scale, and it's going to work over the 1 chord. If I go to the B minor, I can play that same D major scale, and it's going to mean something different now, but all of the same notes will work over the B minor, because now that D major scale is actually a B minor scale, B natural minor scale. It's the chord underneath it that determines the scale. Let's not get any more into theory than that. I just wanted to start off by letting you know it's okay to repeat yourself. So the first lick goes like this. We're going to bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, and I'm using these 2 fingers, middle and ring finger, to pluck. You can strum this with a pick, either way. But what I'm doing is doing a hammer-on to the 7th fret 2nd string, like that. Now, that represents a D chord. Why? Because here's a D chord, played using the A shape. We're going to connect things back to the cage system now. Here's my A shape. Here's the top part of the A shape. Oh yeah, if I look at strings 1 and 2, there they are. Look at this. When I do that hammer on, I'm building the top part of that A shape. It's still a D chord, it's just the A shape. But hopefully you can make that one little connection now, and you go, okay, anytime I want to play this pedal steel lick, and that's another one of my things that I wrote down was this hammer on into a harmonized third to create a pedal steel sound. Anytime I want to do that, all I have to do is find the A shape. If I wanted to do it for a C chord, there it is, right? Oh, that's easy, right? You got a pedal steel lick now that you can work into anything. So I did this, and then I came up here and went. So this is the exact same thing as this. So where I'm barring here on the 5th fret, I'm going to slide that bar up to the 10th fret and go, right? So I'm doing a hammer onto the 12th fret 2nd string and then releasing to the bar there on the 10th fret. And this also represents my D chord, but now let's look at what shape we're in. We're in the D chord using the E shape. So hopefully this is starting, a little light bulb is starting to go on. You're going, oh yeah, okay. A shape, I've got that lick. E shape, I've got this lick. And those are both ideas that work over, in this case, over a D chord. So I can go back and forth between them and get kind of a pedal steel. I can go. Right? But anyway, those are the first two concepts. It's okay to repeat yourself in the harmonized third with that hammer on. Then the song goes to the B minor, and I play the same thing, right? Then the song goes to the 3 chord, which is our F sharp minor. And then from here I went and I played that over that F sharp minor. Now let's look at that. It's the exact same thing. I'm not really doing anything different technically. I'm just moving up 2 frets. Now I'm barring on the 12th fret, and I'm going to do a hammer on to the 14th fret 2nd string. And that represents my F sharp minor. Why? Why does that represent my F sharp minor? Well, I'm thinking about, and honestly, I wasn't thinking about any of this when I was playing this lead and coming up with it. I just sort of could hear the sound. I was thinking of the third, harmonized third. I could hear the sound of that, and I knew that that would fit perfectly over this. But the reason it's working, as I analyzed it after the fact, was I've got my minor chord here using the E shape. There's the top 4 strings of it. I've got, right behind it, I've got pattern 5 of my minor pentatonic scale. Look at the top 2 strings of that. This little box, right? So when I do this, I'm hammering on into that minor pentatonic scale, pattern 5. That's just sort of the easiest way I could think to describe that. I didn't think of it that way. I just was going off the sound, and you'll get there too, the more of this stuff you do. So I came up here and played this twice, and then watch this. Look at this little pull-off. There's a pull-off between the 13th fret and the 12th fret on the 2nd string, down to the 10th fret 2nd string. Now, where I'm at here is I'm in D minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So that's where I'm at mentally. Why am I there? Well, the song is in the key of D. Remember that first chord was a D chord. The song is in the key of D, and I just went to the key of the song. You can always do that. If you're ever lost and you're improvising or you're coming up with an idea, you can go to either the major pentatonic scale for a happier sound or the minor pentatonic scale for a bluesier sound of the key of the song, no matter what the chords are. And then I played this and walked it down. Now that's staying in the D minor pentatonic scale. And at this point, remember the chord goes back to the D. So we're playing a D7. So that D minor pentatonic scale is going to sound great over that. So what I'm doing, and this is the third idea that I wrote down, is doing a bend into the flat 7. So we're going to start here on the 10th fret second string. We're going to play 10, 12 on the second string, and then a half bend. Isn't that cool? The half bend. I just love that half bend. It sounds so much better than if I just hit the note. That just sounds lame. This is very cool. To me, anyway. So that's what's going on there. And that's another idea you can incorporate into your playing, is doing a half bend into the flat 7. Wherever you want to play a flat 7, in whatever chord shape you're in, you just need to know what the flat 7 is. So I know in my E shape, I've got a flat 7 here, and I've got one here. So there it is. So I just go down 1 fret and do a little half bend into it. So after that half bend, I'm going to release it and then come down to the 10th fret second string and then down to the 12th fret third string. And then we're going to do a hammer on to the third interval. Now that's not in your minor pentatonic scale, but it is in your D major pentatonic scale. It's also in your D chord. That's the major third of the chord. And then watch this. We come down to the 4th string and play 12, 11, 10. And this note is my other flat 7. So I wanted to highlight that note, just like we highlighted this one by bending into it. We're basically making sure we get that flat 7 sound because the chord was a D7, right? And the D7 has the flat 7 in it. Here it is right there. Now, I was just using my ear for that. I wasn't sitting there trying to map out notes, flat 7s, because I knew the chord had a flat. I wasn't thinking that way. And you won't be able to think that way. I mean, maybe some people do, but most people, when you're improvising, you have a sound. You hear like, okay, there's the chord. Oh yeah, so I can touch on that sound by just hitting that flat 7. You kind of know what that sound is, I guess. Then the song goes to the G chord, and I played this. So remember, we were already down here. I was already here on the flat 7. I'm going to come down 2 frets, down to the 8th fret 4th string, and then play the 9th fret 4th string. And then while that note rings out, and I'm playing it with my middle finger, my index finger comes up to the 8th fret 2nd string. Now that represents my G chord. Why? These 2 notes are a harmonized 6th, and they're actually 2 notes inside of my G chord using the C shape. This is why you got to know the 5 positions of your cage system, because you can very quickly find little pieces of them all over the fretboard and get sounds that you want. Isn't that cool? It just sort of flows right into the lead. Now, after I played that, then I put my ring finger down on the 9th fret 3rd string and hit this note. So it's like this. And when I did that, that's the 6th interval of my G chord. And so now I'm playing like, that sounds like a G6 when you hear it in context with the G chord because of that 6th interval. But just remember this, inside of a 6th chord is a minor triad. So this is a minor triad. In fact, it's an E minor, right? You can see it's just an E minor triad. But if you play an E minor chord, when there's a G chord underneath it, you get this sound. Like a 6th chord. And so when I'm playing this, it sounds like a G6. And then remember, the song goes from the G, it goes up 2 frets to the 5 chord, which is our A. And I followed that here and walked that up to 2 frets as well. So now the chord underneath it is an A. So when I play this, which is an F sharp minor triad, that represents an A6, or it sounds like an A6 chord. This is another one of the ideas I wrote down, the 6 chord. The 6 chord and the 6 chord to the 9 chord. This happens all the time in this old style of ballad. And then I walked it back down 2 frets to where I started, but this time, don't let this trip you up, but while the song stays on the A chord, right? The chord underneath it's an A. When I'm playing this, the F sharp minor triad over the A, I'm getting an A6. But if I walk this down 2 frets, I'm getting an A9. So if I play this, if I play that E minor triad over an A, it sounds like an A9. And so that part trips a lot of people up because you go, wait a minute. When you were just playing that, you said that that was a G6. Well, it is a G6 if there's a G chord underneath it. But if there's an A chord underneath it and I play this same triad, it's an A9. It just is what it is. And the way that I always think about it is if I'm playing a 6 chord or a 6 triad, let's go back to our A, and I'm up here playing this F sharp minor triad. All I have to do is go down 2 frets this direction. And I can do it for any of the minor triads, by the way. I could go, right? That's also going to be an A9. Like that. Just all open strings. That's an A9. That's an A6. Hear it? Same chord, just a different voicing of it. And then the song goes back to the D chord, and I just played this. 1 finger. Just playing strings 4, 3, and 2 on that 7th fret. That's my D chord using the A shape. There it is. There's the little bar. Or my G shape. And then watch this. The song does this sort of gospel change. That's another one of the ideas I wrote down. There are these gospel changes. So what I did was I went from a D, I go down 2 frets, that's a C, and then down to my G, and I did a little hammer on like that. It's just my G chord using the E shape, just playing strings 2, 3, and 4. So the gospel change is something that happens quite a bit. You hear it in gospel piano, but whatever chord you're on, you can play that chord and play its 4 chord. So if the chord we're going to is a G, you can play its 4 chord, which is a C. And that's all I did there is I went from the D to the C, which is the 4 chord of this G, and then I played the G itself. After I played that G, I came up here to the 6th fret 2nd string, hit that, push it a little bit sharp, and then back to the 3rd fret 2nd string. Why these notes? These are just the D minor pentatonic scale. This would be like pattern 3 of my minor pentatonic scale. All right, so we're going to wrap up this part 1 video there. Come join us for part 2 where we'll go over the rest of this. And remember, as a premium member, you can download the tablature, the MP3 jam track, get all of those extra materials to practice. ActiveMelody.com, do a search for EP585. And if you've got a question about anything, something isn't clear, leave a comment below. I do read all of them and I try and respond to everything. Or if you've just got a comment, maybe you had a light bulb or some epiphany as you're watching this and you just want to share it. I think that's good when we can share that stuff because if it resonates with you, it'll probably resonate with somebody else, and it's always good. Just always trying to encourage the conversation, and it helps me in the algorithm as well. Also, just give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel and you're watching this, hit the subscribe button. I put up new lessons like this every week. All right, we'll see you in part 2.